It's time for another Dice Tower review with John Richard.
Howdy gamers, greetings from Indianapolis, Indiana, the gaming capital of the world. It's time for another board game review with me, Indiana John. Today we're taking a look at Quilt Show, which is designed by Judy Martin and Steve Bennett, produced by Rio Grande Games. And it is a game about, well, having a quilt show. You're actually going to be assembling fabric and sewing things together to make quilts that you're then going to sell for fun and profit. Now, I know that this is not a theme that is usually found in games. It's not a fantasy dungeon crawling adventure, but let's stick with me. Don't click off the video just yet. Just stick with me and let's take a look at the setup and gameplay of Quilt Show and see if we can answer that all-important gamer question: is it fun? So here are the components for Quilt Show. The main feature in this game are these big stacks of quilting blocks here that are all of different patterns. Each stack is a different pattern, and there's an assortment of colors of that pattern. And these are actual real quilting patterns that you can find in quilting books with cool names like Boston Beauty and Snake River Log Cabin, and apron strings, things like that. But all of these are here, and then there's a point value associated with each tile. And they don't seem to be associated with particular colors or patterns or anything like that, but they're just sort of randomly assorted. Like this one's worth 2 points, but this one that's identical is worth 5 points. So it's just sort of a random assortment there. And then you're going to have this big deck of fabric cards that are very colorful, and you're going to be using these cards in order, you're going to be acquiring them and then using them to purchase or make these particular blocks. Once you have a certain assortment of blocks, at some point when all of these timer markers run out, it'll be time for a quilt show where you'll assemble a quilt from these blocks and then try to get the highest score that will earn you these ribbons with prize money on them that you can then turn into terrible paper money. So let's take a look at how you get cards in this game. So the mechanic for getting cards in this game is so similar to Ticket to Ride that I can't help but make the comparison right now to this. You're going to have 6 cards face up in front of you in this display, and then a face down discard pile. On your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either get cards or purchase a block. So getting cards is going to be, like I said, very similar to Ticket to Ride, except that instead of getting 2 cards, you can get 3 cards. And you can choose them either from the display here and put them into your hand, in which the case they are immediately replaced with a blank card, look at that, or another blank card. And I guess this came with a few blank cards for some reason, weird. Okay, so, or replace it with that card there, and then you can make your next selection. You can also pick from the face down card. Then you have these cards, which are called die goods cards, which is sort of the wild card or the locomotive, if you will, for Ticket to Ride. But anyway, that's the end of my comparisons there. But this one is worth all the different colors. And on your turn, you can select 3 cards, or you can get one of these cards and a second card. So if you happen to get the die goods card, you can only get 1 more card. You can be from the top or from one of these, but you can't take 2 of these unless you magically draw it from the deck. Then that's the rules say that's okay. So you're going to be collecting these cards. Now you'll notice the colors on the cards here. There's some that are single colors, and they even have like these little cool pins with symbols in them. So good for colorblind folks because you can associate the symbol rather than the color. And so some of them though have multiple pins in them. So this one is worth both purple and red, and this one's worth green. I don't know my colors myself. Orange and red, and so forth. So you're going to be collecting these cards on your turn, and then on a later turn you can use them to purchase these. Now, I mentioned before that the blocks have different point values associated with them, and that's going to determine the number of cards that you need in order to purchase them. So the sort of the simple algorithm is the points go from 2, 3, 5, and then that's going to be associated with 1, 2, or 3 cards. So a 2-point card like this little orange card here is going to require 1 orange card to be able to purchase it because it's orange. Whereas this purple card tile that's worth 5 points is going to require 3 cards that have purple associated with them. And as far as if I wanted to buy this purple one, I'm just going to need to have cards that have some sort of purple pin in them. So this would be an example of 3 purple cards. I've got my die goods card, I've got a single purple, and then I've got this one that could be either purple or red. So I would turn those in, and then I'd be able to take the purple tile, and I'm going to place it in my behind my screen here, which is called my sewing room. See the nice little picture of the sewing machine there. So I would drop those behind my screen there, and you're collecting those in order to try to create patterns. So once you do that, also once you purchase a block on your turn, there's going to be this stack of these time markers sitting in front of all the players, and that's a number determined by the number of players in the game. And you're just going to take one of those whenever you buy a block, and you set that in front of your screen so that everybody can see it. So everyone will know how many blocks you have purchased because of that number of time markers. But why do we need these? Well, there's also this big red one here, and then once all of these have been purchased and have been taken, then the very last one that is taken is going to trigger the quilt show. And there's going to be multiple quilt shows, usually 3 in every game. So once this is taken, then the game stops, no more cards, no more tiles, and now it's time to have a quilt show. So when it gets to be quilt show time, a couple of things are going to happen. One, we're going to take all these ribbon tokens and shuffle them up, and are going to deal out a certain number of them based upon the number of players. For a 4-player game, I believe that you deal out 6 of these. And so this is going to represent the money that's available for quilts that are in this quilt show. And so whoever has the highest points is going to get the pick of the highest money value of these prize tokens. So you want to have those in mind when you're building your quilts. So those are going to be sitting out there for every player to look at. And then you're going to retreat into your sewing room here and look at all of the quilt blocks that you've created, and you're going to get to work at building your quilts that you're going to then present during the quilt show. There are 2 kinds of quilts that you can build in the game, and then multiple sizes. So they explain that there are 2 kinds, one called a scrap quilt, which is where you have the same pattern but different colors. So in this case, let's say that I have this sort of a thing going on here. This is all the same pattern, but it is different colors. Then that would be considered a 2x3 scrap quilt. The other kind that you can make is what's called a sampler quilt. And a sampler quilt is where you have all different patterns but the same color. And so this would be an example of a sampler quilt. Okay. Now, as far as the sizes of the quilts and the configurations of them, that's kind of all itemized on the back of your player screen here. But there's multiple sizes you can do. You can do a 1x3 or a 2x2. You can do a 2x3. You can even do a 3x4. So those are the only legal sizes there, and it's all itemized right here. But you'll build these quilts, and then you're going to assign them a point value. And you're essentially going to look at the number that's in each of the blocks and add those up together. Additionally, if you want to, every player gets 3 of these special sort of bonus tokens. They're called quilting chips that you can then use to enhance your quilt. And so I could take this particular token here, and I can throw it on there, and that's going to add 3 points, or this one's going to add 2 points. But keep in mind that you only can use these once per game, and there's going to be 3 quilt shows, so you might not want to use those up. They might push you over the edge though and get you those higher amounts. After everybody's built their quilts, you're going to remove your screen and show everybody your wonderful things that you have made, and then you're going to add up your points. You'll go through the points, and whoever has the highest value is going to get the pick of the best prize token, and then is going to be able to convert that into sweet, sweet paper money. Oh my gosh, paper money, really? Okay, anyway, you'll get the paper money there, and then if there's any ties, then you pretty much will split those up among the first. If you have two people that are tied for first, you'll take the top 2 values, split those in half, and then the players will get those. If you have quilts that did not sell, and that you didn't get any money for, then you get to keep those behind your screen, and we'll show them at a different quilt show. If you have scrap blocks that are left over that you didn't get to make into a quilt, you can keep those behind your screen as well. But essentially, this is going to continue on, and you're going to do this for 3 rounds, using the cards to buy the quilt blocks, and then when the quilt show triggers, you will make your quilts, present them, get money. Whoever has the most money at the end is the winner of Quilt Show. Okay, so I know that this is a non-standard theme, and I know a lot of the other videos that I've seen of reviews that people have done of this game, they've really made a big deal about the theme and, oh, I can't play this with the guys in my group because it's about quilting. Let me just say that for me, I get a little tired of all the themes that have been overdone in gaming. I don't need another fantasy dungeon crawling game. I don't need another Euro strategy game about trading in the Mediterranean, trading anywhere really. I'm looking for some kind of unique, interesting themes. And I gotta say that Quilt Show, even though I'm not a quilter, is an interesting theme. And you know, the gameplay itself, as you can see, very similar to Ticket to Ride, but without a board. I mean, as far as using cards to be able to then pay for other things, you know, and it's very similar to that. But I think it's a good thing because that is a mechanic that a lot of has made Ticket to Ride one of the most famous gateway games of all time, and I think it has that same flavor here. So being able to pick up the cards, pick out those different tiles, and just sort of try to assemble what you can from what you're able to buy, I think is the fun of this game. So you never know whether you can wait around for the thing that you really need. Do you want to make that scrap quilt or do you want to make the sampler quilt? You kind of have to make some tactical decisions based upon which tiles are coming up. So I really do like the game. I think it's really solid, and I think it's a pretty fun gateway game. I think folks that do like Ticket to Ride, especially folks that might be interested in this particular theme, might be interested in this. I'm actually looking forward to taking this to family picnic soon to play with my mother-in-law and some other folks in my family that might be interested in quilting, and it might get them into this game. So whatever gets folks into the shallow end of the gaming pool, I think is a good thing. And this is from a legit quilting person. Judy Martin is actually a publisher of many quilting books, and so all the stuff that's in here is very legit as far as being true to the quilting theme. So I think it's a lot of fun. I think if I had any complaints about it, it might just be the length of it. I think it might be a little bit too long for what it is. It says that there is a variant in it that allows you to just do 2 quilt shows instead of 3, and that shortens the game up a little bit. And I think that might be a little bit better than doing all 3 quilt shows. But I think it really is a solid game, and I think you should check it out if you like this style of game. So that is Quilt Show.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.